Welcome back, everyone. We're here once more. You're with Alex White and Dave.
Hi.
And we're going to talk about what we could be doing in Rochester and what I would hope to do when I'm on City Council. As always, running as a Democrat this time. The election is on June 22nd, and I am going to fill you in on some ideas, things that we need to talk about, things that the city really needs to do and think about. And today, we said it was going to be taxes, and it is, but the more I got into planning this, a couple things occurred to me. And the first thing is what we're really talking about is tax breaks. And tax breaks, when you say that, people always think, oh, we use them for development and to create growth and stimulus, and it's like investing to get more money in the future. And what occurred to me is that what we have been doing is based on an economic model which was popular in the 60s and 70s for economic growth, and that was the idea of takeoff. And it used an airplane as the model. And the idea was that it starts slowly and then things start to develop, and you just need to get the speed up enough and you'll be able to take off and the economy will just shoot up and grow all on its own. It will be wonderful. And so these tax breaks and the idea behind it are that, we need to lump a bunch of them together. And when we start getting some growth, other people will look and say, wow, Rochester is a happening place. I want to invest there, and I want to create buildings and put my business there, and,
And move there.
And oh my gosh, you're going to be a tourist destination, and look at how wonderful it is. And eventually, if we just give enough, we will reach that takeoff moment. And it will just magically fuel itself, and we'll have cold fusion in the economy, and it will just miraculously work. Unfortunately, that economic theory has been proven wrong. It doesn't work that way. It really doesn't work that way. And one of the big problems is that you don't know when you've given enough. And so the first thing I want to do here is I want to talk a little about, and I want you to keep that in the back of your mind. Okay?
The idea that we don't know if we've given enough.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And that, because first I want to do a couple things about taxes. And these are incredibly important things that, every person running for city council really should know this. And so a couple of these are crucial to determining how the taxes work. And the basic process of determining what our taxes are is the city goes through and figures out how much money do they need to run the government they want. Well, and then they figure out all the revenue they're getting in except taxes. And then they take the amount left and say, that's what we need to raise in taxes. Let's divide that out amongst the value of the properties out there and levy that as taxes on people.
As a tax rate.
Right, as a rate.
Okay.
So like if we need, I'll just use a random number from last year, $159 million, and our property is worth $7.2 billion, then we can work out what the value of property needs to pay what in taxes. Okay, so that we can raise the money we need. That's the basic bet. Now there's a bunch of rules here. And one of the most important is the state maximum 2% cap. And what that says is that the total taxes collected in an area can never be greater than 2% of the assessed value of the property. Now, this number is something that the city actually puts in their budget every year and keeps track of. And admittedly, we have been better than we were now. We have been worse too, But in the last several years, we have been narrowing the margin under the tax rate, the legal maximum tax rate, and
We've been coming closer.
coming closer and closer and closer, and so we are really been overspending, and not, even though your assessment went up like crazy, it really did,
And fees have gone up too.
and fees have gone
I
up,
think
but
my
fees
water
don't
bill-
count,
No, I understand, but
which is why your water bill went up.
Oh yeah.
Okay, your water and the trash bill went up too, but they go up because they don't count, and so they can do that
It
with
count up.
everyone.
We had an internet issue, and that's what happens when you go live online. So
Okay.
I'm sorry. Where were we?
We were at even though your fees go up,
Right.
it doesn't count against the 2%.
Okay.
But the other thing that I'd like to take away from this factually is that there are two tax rates in Rochester, one for homestead and one for non-homestead. Homestead are properties that are residential with a maximum of 3 units in it and no commercial space at all. Okay? That is, by definition, the homestead rate. And the homestead rate in Rochester is about 1.7, 1.8%. The non-homestead rate is about 3.6%. It is everything else. Everything. Commercial, everything. Now, what we have here, though, is we have an issue that even with the amount we're collecting, we're not collecting really enough. And the problem here has there's a lot of things, but the basic problem is costs go up every year. And every year more employees retire. Every year there's increased cost for things. And the reason this creates a problem is that we're not always growing the assessed value sufficiently. And even though even though we just had an assessment and it seems like your property value and taxes went up a ton, okay, they're still not going to change that again for 4 years and put it out over 4 years. And in many cases, it doesn't cover the cost of living. And there's reasons for this. And the reasons for this are tax breaks. And almost all of the tax breaks go to non-homestead properties. Almost all of them. And they basically, these non-homestead properties that get these, 80% of them are housing. So the idea that we're giving tax breaks to create jobs, to grow the economy, kind of a myth. And even when we do give it to give jobs, now there hasn't been a study on this in years, but the last time the Comida in Monroe County was looked at, and someone actually tracked whether the jobs that were promised were created, it was found that 49% of all the tax breaks given out by Comida, the company not only did not meet the job requirement asked for, they actually reduced their workforce.
Okay, so I want to make sure that I'm understanding as well as
Yep.
everybody else. So, because 80% of the projects that get tax breaks are housing, non-homestead housing.
Correct.
Right? So when the project's done, it really doesn't leave with any jobs. There may be some temporary jobs for construction, but once it's done, there are no more jobs happening from that project.
Pretty much.
Okay.
You
Just
know,
making
there's-
sure we're all on the
Sometimes
same
there's a little maintenance. They cut the grass.
page. Okay.
But in many cases, no, we're not talking about jobs. And even when it goes to a manufacturer, we're not talking about jobs either, because the number was 76% don't actually create any jobs, even though they promise they will.
In a previous week, in a previous talk we had, and I'm sorry, I'm just kind of it's relatively late in the day. It's been a long day, so I don't remember exactly what we were discussing, but we did mention that sometimes when we talk about tax breaks or giving incentives away to developers and asking them if they didn't get these incentives, would they still do the project? A lot of them say yes. Is it we're in the same boat here with the tax breaks?
Oh, yeah, we are.
Okay.
And we'll get to that.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right.
I have a set of examples.
Fair enough. But I mean,
where there this of things that you think would happen don't.
Okay, so because when you say these things, this is what sparks the synapses in my head.
No, and people should be thinking this, because the concept is that we do this and there'll be that takeoff.
Right.
Okay, and for many reasons it's not going to happen, because, for example, we're not creating jobs, we're creating housing. And we're not even creating low-income housing.
Which is, we've talked about.
Right. We're creating moderate-rate housing. Right. So, now, if you go to the city's website and look up the property information, you'll notice that a lot of these properties are paying basically no taxes. Now, that doesn't mean they're not paying any money. Because what happens is, in order to get the tax breaks, they come to the city, not Comida first. They come to the city and negotiate a payment in lieu of taxes program with the city.
Which is called a pilot.
Right. In a bunch of these programs, a number of them are very generous. The Q program, for example, no taxes for 8 years. And then it goes up. First you pay 20%, then 40, then 60, then 80, then full taxes. After that is a step up every year. But 8 years, no taxes.
So 8 years and then a step up.
And then a step up.
Okay, all right, no, nice.
So yeah, nice. Over a period of 13 years, you basically pay a tiny fraction of the total taxes. Sure. And the important thing about this is, remember, it's that non-homestead, and the way the value that should be providing huge value to our assessment. But the way they do it, the ones that receive pilot agreements don't count towards our assessed value. And it's almost $2 billion.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. That's a huge amount of property to be paying a small amount. And I'll throw a number at you. Last year they paid $14 million on $2 billion of property. Less than a tenth of the taxes the city collected comes from 20% of, more than 20% of the value in the city. So, we have an issue here that could be solved with that cap. Could be solved by stopping to do this. Now, like all these tax breaks, you think, well, we're getting some money. We weren't getting any before, which is one of the big myths of these tax breaks. We did get money before. And my favorite example is Midtown Plaza. In its last year of operation, Midtown Plaza, which was mostly empty and a complete failure at the time, was paying $730,000 in taxes. Counting the pilots and everything else, we're less than half of that today. And, you think it includes Tower 280, and it includes the Windstream building, and it includes the DNC headquarters, and, we're not getting anywhere near the taxes from those nice rebuilt or brand new buildings. We're not getting the taxes that we got from Midtown Plaza in its last year of operation. And this is one of the things. These properties, at some point, all paid taxes. And when we chose to do something else with it, frequently at some point, they stop paying taxes, and then we give them a tax break, and then they don't pay taxes again for a period of time. And some of them are getting this very generous 8-year with no tax break. which will come back in a minute. So, with these tax breaks account for, by the city's numbers, these account for roughly $35 million of revenue we're not collecting. And so what they have done is that they have pushed as much of that off as they can on the rest of us.
Well, yeah, I know. I mean, the bills have to get paid.
Right, and so
Right.
so your home is paying higher taxes, the business down the street, the gas station, the restaurant, all of those buildings are paying higher taxes. As a result, all the rental is paying higher taxes, so rents are higher, so housing costs are higher, so more businesses are failing. It actually is hurting ourselves. And takeoff in that concept never takes into account the negative effects of the tax breaks. It only looks at the positives and says, why, if we just do this some more. The reason it isn't working is we haven't done it enough.
Yeah, that's...
But we're actually hurting ourselves by doing it. And that's the message that we're missing.
And we've been doing this kind of thing for decades, right?
The first one I could find is when they actually made Midtown Plaza at the very beginning. And back in 63 or something like that.
Okay.
And we started, the first couple I can find are back then. And a couple good ones. And, you know, Xerox Tower was built for $16 million. And they had they have a tax agreement on them at that point that said their tax rate, they would only ever be taxed on that $16 million.
All right, so this has been going on for a while.
But listen to that number.
I hear you.
They're taxed at 100% of the construction cost.
Right.
Okay? Now, as we've moved forward,
Yeah.
okay,
The building's worth way more.
but it may be worth way more, but the tax breaks we've had to give to people have been much larger.
Sure. No, I understand.
So Midtown originally, when it was built, got a very small tax break. And then when Wilmerite bought it, Midtown, let's do Sibley's. When Wilmerite bought Sibley's in 92, he got a tax break which said that he was going to have to pay in the roughly $450,000 the first year, and it would go up, and eventually would go to $900,000, and after 20 years he would have no tax break. The Sibley building today has a tax break in a pilot program. It has it paying about $40,000.
After they sold it, there was another...
The new buyer, Wilmerite, the tax break he got was basically a tenth of the obligation that Wilmerite had 20 years earlier.
So
over time, let me finish this.
Okay.
Over time, we have had to give more and more and larger in order to keep getting people to build. So not only has it not led to takeoff, it's actually led to us having to make them more and more generous, until places like the Culver Road Armory was given 10-year zero taxes. The next 10 years, their taxes would be 20% of original assessment value, which was only $3 million on a property that was built for $14 million at the time, and even more construction has gone in since. So they've spent $30 million there, and yet are paying taxes only on $3 million. And this is the second problem. Even though the city says it's only $2 billion of assessed value, they're not assessing these properties at full value. If you buy a house or build a house and it costs you $150,000 to do it, that's what you'll be assessed at immediately. These big buildings, if they build them for $50 million, for example, maybe 54, or renovate for $54 million, Tower 280 maybe, they will assess them for 14 million maybe, or maybe 12.
Okay.
So, they're not even assessing them for the full value. We're not even getting our full value out of that.
So this process, this, I don't know what word to use, this technique, some might even call it an ideology.
Crime.
Okay. This criminal behavior, all right, whatever you want to call it, we have been ramping it up. So those who say we need to do it more, but we already have been doing it more. That's what I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we've seen that ramping it up doesn't work. So the people who are saying we need to do it more, would they, I assume they have a vested interest in doing more of it?
They do.
Like people like you and I, and people watching this, probably are not the ones who are saying, hey, more tax breaks for these corporations.
No. And this has been documented by lots of people. David K. Johnston almost wrote a book about this. One of his books is almost entirely about this, and the link between these sort of giveaways and political donations. And in Rochester, it's almost direct. You can almost see it, and you can almost take a look at a tax break and see the donations, or in the near future, the donations from the person who received them back to the mayor and the Democratic Party. And, just as a side note, I don't know if you've been following the bankruptcy of the Republican Party here in Monroe County.
Wait, what?
Republican Party is bankrupt.
I missed this.
They have no.
I just totally
when
missed this.
When they lost control of the county, they lost the ability to give out these sort of contracts, and people stopped giving them donations.
Was this in the news?
You had to look up. You had to go to the page. You had to go to the state page.
Oh, okay.
You know the deal. You go to the state
I know
donation
how that
page.
I know how that works, but I mean, I'm just wondering.
And you can see that no
reported.
one's donated anywhere. They haven't filed for bankruptcy, but they don't have any money.
Okay.
They used to be getting in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a year.
Well,
and now and last year they got in less than 30.
But remember when there was a Republican county executive,
sure,
the Democrats were kind of in the same boat.
But they had the city to bring in their money.
Yeah, okay.
So the county has neither the city nor
okay.
the county. The Republicans don't have city or county, so they have nowhere to bring in this sort of money. And you can see the donations dried up instantly.
And again, remember, we're not just doing this to talk about like electoral reform or anything like that. We're connecting these to tax breaks.
Right.
Yeah.
Directly connected to tax breaks.
Yeah.
They may not have any benefit. And, and we're going to get this on, we'll get to the abuses in a minute, because there are many. But these tax breaks, in the long run, generate the revenue for the campaigns. And this direct connection, I've been tracing it since Bob Duffy was mayor here. And you can actually see donor building. Morgan gives a lot of money. Morgan receives a lot of tax breaks and building loans that he doesn't end up having to pay back. And even when indicted, the city was still giving him things. It's crazy.
Cake with a file in it?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
he can buy
Sorry.
with the $900,000 we gave him. He could buy a cake. We were giving him money when no one else would, and he was indicted because he was still giving donations. And this connection between donations and these tax breaks is actually one of the signs that this isn't in our best interest.
I don't know if this is the right time, but if you say it's not the right time, I'll write it down and we can come back to it. So what about those who say, well, if we don't do this, other municipalities are doing it around the state and around the country, and we'll lose out because these other these projects will go somewhere else.
It's true. Absolutely true. College Town, if we hadn't given them about $40 million. Oh, wait, no. That location is why College Town is where it is. It's not. Most of the things we're giving them to, and admittedly, there are some. Okay? It is possible Monroe Muffler could have built another warehouse somewhere for distribution rather than expanding the one here. Perfectly possible. Okay? But what Monroe Muffler asked for was tiny by comparison to what the Sibley building is getting. And Monroe Muffler actually created jobs with what they did as opposed. And, you know, one of the problems is we're not talking about like, we're not talking about the Amazon headquarters too. Okay? Where they're pitting places against each other and they could put it anywhere. We're not talking about that. In most cases, we're talking about housing and we're talking about commercial, like a College Town. And it is built there for many reasons, which almost all have to do with the location. Okay? Yes, I mean, let's imagine Avon says, hey, you know, Buckingham, we'd like you to take, and instead of building Tower 280, we'd like you to build a tower in Avon with really expensive luxury housing.
In Avon.
In Avon.
Okay. Well, that's not going to happen.
Not going to happen. Right. Downtown was the location where it would work. Avon isn't. We didn't have to offer him money to put it downtown because it's the only place it would work. And this is another one of those myths, because almost all of this is going to housing. Remember, 80% going to housing. It's really 79, 1, there's 2 or something percent. But roughly 80% is going to housing. And under that criteria, the housing goes where the people are. That's where you build the housing, or where the people want to be. And so no matter what Syracuse offers, U of R housing cannot be in Syracuse. You know, we didn't have to give big tax breaks to the housing tower down near the stage bridge for U of R, because U of R wanted that for student housing. And it's not like even Pittsburgh could say, hey, we'd rather have that in Pittsburgh, we'll offer more. There's no bidding on these. No other place is bidding. These are just being given away, mainly, almost exclusively for the campaign donations. And as a result, you know, it's more, to many politicians, it's more important that they please these developers than they please you. So, raising your taxes to give them a tax break makes sound political sense.
Political sense.
Right. It makes no sense for the city. It makes no sense for the economy, but it makes political sense to the mayor. And coincidentally, our last couple mayors have all been...
not just the current mayor.
Our last couple mayors, going back to Duffy. Duffy raised like $4 million this way. Tom Richards raised $780 in his first re-election campaign. In his first election campaign, in the special election, he raised like $780,000. The mayors raised over $1 million, our current mayor. Okay? This is not a particular single mayor I'm picking on. Right. This is the way it's been being done.
Yeah.
And they're using your money to bribe people to give them campaign donations back at a fraction of the bribe.
All right, so I think we can all agree that this is bad.
Correct.
Okay.
Now let me. That's
what I'm saying. We're going to hammer away with some examples.
I am.
Okay.
Now the first example I want to do, and one of the reasons why one of the problems with these tax breaks is they never end.
And I promise, after we get through the examples, we're going to talk about what a certain someone could do, or anybody on city council, to deal with this.
Okay, the first one, these never end, never.
Right.
And my first example is the Highlands. It's an apartment complex in Green Knoll Drive. It's across the street from Citygate, which I could talk at length about how we got taken at Citygate. But this apartment was built in 1965. Okay, it is actually moderate income housing. Okay, what that means is that it would be affordable for someone making 80% of the city median income, and it actually would qualify as low-income housing using the area median income
For the county.
for the county.
Okay.
So, which we shouldn't be doing. And watch my show on this.
We've talked about this.
Watch the video on that.
If you're watching this on the Facebook page,
Yeah, if you've managed to get this far in this video,
Yeah.
you probably should watch the other one too.
Yeah,
Okay, but this apartment complex, built in 65, got a 20-year moderate rate tax break. And then it got renewed. Well, actually, then it got that tax break was renewed again. And then when it started to run out again, 40 years later, they said that, oh my gosh, we need to put in new cabinets, new carpet, and new countertop. And as a result of that, we need our tax breaks extended for 30 more years. It's always something, isn't it?
Any household, it is always something.
It's always something. And, if you don't plan for the carpet to wear out,
Right.
and instead decide that you can use this as an excuse to get your tax breaks extended indefinitely. And so this is one of the tricks that they use over and over again, is they just claim, oh, we have to put a roof on, oh, there's new expenses, oh, something came up, oh, we need to put air conditioners in them. So we can't possibly end the tax breaks now. And, all these are things that should have been worked into the business plan, but instead they took in profit, therefore not increasing the amount of money they got, knowing they could later blackmail the city and get their tax breaks extended, so they will never pay taxes. Remember, 65 to today, right? 56 years, no taxes paid.
Right.
Thank you, City of Rochester. The next one I want to go to is, for the same reason, is the St. Bernard Seminary. St. Bernard received one of those. This was the old seminary there on Lake Avenue, out near the way up, out near the cemeteries, and this place was converted into senior housing in 1999, and received I believe it was a 10-year no taxes agreement. After 10 years, they received the 8-year, I believe, the 8-year one. They didn't pay taxes for years, then they paid 1 year, then they never paid taxes again. They
did it that 1 year and didn't like it. So
no, it was not much fun. No. And so then, like 6 years later, they sold the building. Now, their arrears in taxes a huge amount. The city would have taken it away from them. If it was you or me who didn't pay our taxes for 6 years, they'd take the house.
Right.
But they didn't. They let it be sold. The new person came in and said, oh, wow, this is a lot of money. We need these taxes forgiven.
Right.
And in order to make this project work, because we're going to have to put some money into it, guess what? We need our tax breaks now. And I think theirs are 32 years from now.
They have tax breaks for 32 years.
32 years.
Okay.
Now remember, they never end.
Yeah.
And they never end because at some point someone will come in and buy it and say, oh, I need tax breaks now. So those are the two of the examples. And now one of the ones that killed me happened just recently, and that's the Midtown Athletic Club. Midtown Athletic Club was saying that they need to compete with the YMCA, now closed.
It's just closed.
And in order to do so, because the YMCA is tax-free, they needed to get some tax breaks. And the only way this was going to work is if they did some renovations.
Wait, I'm sorry. The YMCA is tax-free?
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay.
Yeah. I can talk about this subject for a long time.
Well, I know that.
But, yeah.
I've known you for a long time. I know
Yeah,
this.
you know all these things,
Okay.
too. But anyways, that falls under the not-for-profit company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you're a for-profit company, but you say you're a non-for-profit,
Yeah, okay.
and therefore they don't pay taxes.
I understand.
Yeah, U of R, for example.
Yes.
Midtown Athletic Club, they decided they needed to do some renovations. Their pool wasn't fancy enough. They needed to have some giant meditation lounge with some wooden tree sculpture and a giant Buddha. Just some of the things they needed.
Don't hate.
I'm not.
Okay.
Okay, really, they could have planted a tree. It was somewhere between $6 and $10 million was going to be spent, they said, or 5.7, which they did, but somewhere between 6 and 10, and as a result, they need tax breaks. And they were actually asked, would you do this if you don't get the tax breaks? And they said, yes, we need to do this to stay competitive. Every 10 years we do this, and we're a little behind here. We really need to get it done, so it's going to happen whether you give us the tax breaks or not.
Dude, do they have to take an oath before they say these things? Because why would anyone admit to that?
They're just sticking their finger up at you.
Okay.
I mean, it is so blatant that they...
Well, I guess it's better than lying.
I mean, it's just stunning
Okay.
that, they're saying it doesn't matter. And, of course, as you can guess, Comida said, oh, that's nice. We're not going to give you these tax breaks. Oh, no, I'm lying. They gave them the tax breaks. Yeah, of course they did. And this is the other problem.
So the RAC, now you just said Comida, but they're also getting stuff from the city too.
The way the tax breaks work is they're negotiated with the municipality, the city, negotiates the deal, and then it goes to Comida, who approves it.
Okay. So, making sure that I understand. So, Comida is the County of Monroe Industrial Development Association.
Correct.
So, how does that
All
affect the
Comida
city?
does. Comida has a stamp.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, what they approve are tax breaks from city taxes.
Correct.
Okay, I'm just
But
making sure
also
I'm
county taxes, too. It
Sure,
can be
sure. No,
county,
okay.
And it can
Well,
be
that I
state
do.
taxes. But what
They can
with the
approve,
city
whoa,
taxes...
they can approve state tax stuff too?
Yeah, they do sales tax all the time.
Wow, okay.
A number of the ones on Jefferson Road and Henrietta actually receive the taxes they collect for sales tax, they get to keep.
Okay, all right. Oh, yeah. Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
By the way, business fair to their competitors, of course. At New York State, let's be fair. But all Comida does is it makes official. The city doesn't have all the powers, and it also allows them to pass it off to the county, looking like, hey, it wasn't us, but it's negotiated in the city.
Okay.
And they agree to the tax breaks and send it to Comida.
Okay, so would this be a time where I could ask, all right, so then what can you do on city council then?
Well, because the way they're negotiated, it has to be approved by city council. Okay. Every single one of these. And I've been keeping track for years. I have lists of them. Every single one I get because it's voted on at city council.
All right.
And it is, unfortunately, the easiest way to find out about them is through the city council vote.
And that's same thing with city school district stuff. The best way to find out about that is school board votes.
Right. I mean, you have to go back and look through it month by month and whatnot if you want to find it now. But
because it's not searchable.
Not really.
Yeah, right.
No, not really. No, because there is no way to make this a big Word file.
Well, or any database.
Any database. It's not possible. They have to scan it all in and put it up that way. Anywho, I am just complaining now about pet peeves of mine. Yeah. But what I wanted to get at here is that city council actually controls this.
Okay.
The mayor negotiates it, but city council has to approve it. And the question that has been asked on this, and the question that always comes up, and a number of city council members have actually asked me, the real problem I have is that you know, we should stop this because we've done enough and takeoff should have happened. And that's pretty much what they're working on, is that at some point, even under the takeoff plan, you need to stop.
A few more decades, Alex.
And my argument is always, we need to stop. Just stop. And they give out a number of these every year. And you know, just going back and looking at 2017, there were 8 of them in 2017, totaling millions and millions of dollars a year. Okay?
Is that the most current stats we have? Or?
No, I got 2019, 2020, but you know, 2020 is not complete. In 2019, it's hard to say whether some of those were actually done. But one of the things, and you know, this tax it is really a crucial issue because it ties directly into affordable housing. And in two incredibly important ways. One, people on fixed income are forced out by rising taxes because their fixed income is not growing at anywhere near the rate that the taxes are growing, particularly if you happen to have lived in like the South Wedge or the Swilberger neighborhood or Market View Heights, or you know, there's plenty of neighborhoods.
Or previously Cornhill,
Browncroft.
Yep.
You know, places that are growing at their property value and taxes are growing at about 8 to 12% a year. You're rapidly going to force someone on fixed income out of that area. And the second way it does this is by raising rental costs.
Yeah.
Because expense is directly linked to what rentals are going to be, and if taxes go up, rental costs go up.
Yep.
And particularly rental costs on new construction. Even though they don't pay taxes, the taxes actually help define what rates they're going to pay, and it leads to higher rents, which actually leads to less affordable housing. So this tax rate is crucial that we keep it low, which is why it's important to get all the buildings on the tax rate rolls. Which leads me to the most important thing that can happen on City Council. And, you know, I had been actually quietly calling for Citygate. This project, I believe 2014, the construction of it starts, it gets tax breaks, it's supposed to be on the rolls in 2016, it never pays taxes. Never pays its pilot program, never pays a cent. Okay? City gets $0 for all the money we put into it. And we did. We gave them loans, we gave them grants, they haven't paid the loans back, all sorts of things, nothing. Okay? So I had been quietly saying, we need to take this property back. The city needs to foreclose. Okay? And that is one of the tools, and one of the important tools. You can eliminate the pilot. The first step in the foreclosure was to get rid of the pilot program, which the city had to do. And the city, one of their arguments is, we haven't done one of these in a very long time. We don't have the expertise to do it. City Law Department showing its stripes there. Okay. Yeah. But if they did this, now remember, 49% of all of these projects failed to meet the requirements for receiving their pilot program. 49%. Let's get those pilots off the books. Let's get the taxes to the rate they should be. And let's start doing this today.
So you're saying even that number, those projects, should never have the pilot agreement to begin with?
They shouldn't have the pilot agreement, and I won't vote for them.
Well,
okay?
I don't mean just because it's what you think, but the requirements for pilot programs, they didn't actually meet it, but they were given to them anyway.
They come in and say, usually, we'll create so many jobs, okay? And then they don't create the jobs.
Right.
They come in and they say, we will build a project worth so much, and they cut corners and they don't build quite as much.
Okay.
They don't meet consistently, they don't meet the requirements.
Oh, I understand what you mean. Okay. All
Okay,
right.
so if they don't meet these, and we can go and check, and even many of the housing projects had some sort of labor requirement, which they're not meeting. And in particular, I would argue strongly, legally, that the obligation to create jobs falls on the owner of the property, not on a rental cause to someone who's renting from him.
Sure.
This is important, and I believe this would legally stand up in court. And this is important because they frequently, like College Town, was supposed to create 300 and some jobs. College Town wasn't ever going to create 300 jobs. They were hoping to rent to people who would create 300 jobs. Not the same, dude.
Right.
So as a result, we could claw back, they call it, our pilot agreement, and put some of these buildings. We can't do College Town because it's now been absorbed by the U of R and it's a not-for-profit. But there are others we can do this to, and we can claw back the tax breaks and get them on the tax rolls. And this is important because a number of years ago, the city assessor told me, one who's not there anymore, so you can't get, and don't bother guessing who it is, I'm not going to tell you, but he said that he really wishes that we'd have fewer of these pilot agreements because there's so many buildings he doesn't get to assess, and they're heavily underassessed because what's the point?
Yeah, they're not going to tax them.
Not going to tax them. Why bother wasting time assessing them?
Absolutely.
So as a result, many of these properties are heavily underassessed. And now we're coming full circle back to that 2% tax cap, right?
Mm-hmm.
If these properties were assessed at their full value, instead of having like $15 million under the cap, we'd have tens of millions of dollars under the cap. I don't know the exact number, but we may be able to push it up to $50 million under the cap. Now, I'm not saying raise taxes. I'm saying this will affect things like what we pay when we borrow money. It will affect our credit rating. And this will just make the city better and make our money go farther.
Well, and doing this is an issue of fairness and equity as well.
It also, I like to bring up that almost all of these tax breaks are given to straight white males.
Well, that's who does the developing. For
Exactly,
the most part.
and those are the people. And in many cases, we're giving tax breaks for housing built for wealthy white people. And you look downtown, there's a whole lot of tax breaks. You can't hardly throw a ball without breaking a window of a building that's getting tax breaks downtown.
That's true.
So, and we're talking millions of dollars downtown. 28 million, I think, was my last count, but that was done in 2016. But,
Well, so let me connect some things. So you say, because we know that when any project, for the most part, gets these breaks in any way, in any subsidies or anything like that, they don't tend to pay them back, and that they keep getting extended almost forever.
right.
Okay. So that's lost revenue that doesn't come in to city government to pay for stuff. And so to make that up, that cost comes on to us.
Correct. And one of the problems with this is these big buildings generate additional costs. Because most of these are going to very big buildings, big projects, and, for example, they're more difficult and more expensive to fight a fire in them. We need to have special equipment for this and special training. Okay? They put added strain on the sewer system. There's all sorts of additional costs to this that go in, and we're not ever getting any money back. And To say nothing about, if Tower 280 has a couple children in there who go to one of the city schools, we're not getting money from that to pay for the schools there either.
Well, okay, but I'm going to fight you on this one, only in the sense where I'm saying it doesn't matter if there's kids in there or not.
It doesn't.
Because we need our schools to be fully funded for a healthy community.
Correct, but sending a kid to school has a cost.
Sure, of course.
Okay, and these buildings generate costs on the public without paying anything in.
Yeah, no.
And so you, me, the viewers, we make it up. And we make it up because the politicians, in this case the mayor, need to give these out to raise money to run her re-election campaign.
And as a member of city council, you can bring more light to this. You can speak out against it.
We could even have an ethics reform thing, which would be awesome.
You could talk to other city council members as a fellow member about why they should vote no, as opposed to coming to the monthly meetings and doing it for 2 minutes in front of them.
Well, I also talk to them offline to try to push this. And, I've had so many conversations with them over this issue. And, one of the things that always gets me is we've had a number of city council members retire. And I want to say in the last 10 years, each one who retires has come in and said, I believe now that I'm leaving, we've given enough tax breaks and we should stop. Okay?
Now that I'm leaving.
Basically, yeah. One of the things they all say is that, we probably have reached a point where we no longer need to give any tax breaks. They've been doing this for more than a decade when they leave.
Right.
So there is sympathy on city council towards this. And like a lot of the issues we've talked about, okay, this is something that I understand. I understand well. I can make a cogent argument for it to people who basically agree with me. Okay? And I'm not afraid to take the lead on this issue, like I have in a number of city issues. Like, remember when we tried to buy Tower 280?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, we came in and tried to buy Tower 280. Instead, they sold it for $2 to Buckingham and Morgan.
We offered more.
Substantially.
Well, 20.
I thought we offered $100,000.
Oh, yeah, you guys did that. No, I brought a sock full of nickels.
Yeah, you went first with a sock full of nickels and said, I have $20.
Right.
Which was 10 times what they were selling.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, no. All right.
But my point is, I've been fighting this for a long time. I understand it. And it is hurting our city.
Yeah.
Okay? It's hurting our city in many, many ways. And by doing this and keeping these properties off the tax rolls indefinitely, we are squeezing ourselves to the 2% cap, which maybe not this year, maybe not next year, is going to become a relevant problem.
In addition to the problems we have now.
In addition to all the other problems, because they've been raising our taxes every year.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's going to have to come to a stop. And then what are they going to do? Mm-hmm. And if instead we could fix this, get some of these properties on the tax rolls, we could resolve some of these issues. And, this is a crucially important issue for the reasons I've mentioned, and because in many cases you're paying more taxes than you should. Yeah. Quite simply. Because other people, incredibly wealthy people, are not.
All right. So we are just about out of time, so I'm going to take care of my responsibilities as campaign manager, Dave. If you would like to help with this, there's a few things you can do. You can, one, take this video and you can share it. Liking it's cool, that's really great, but sharing it amongst in your social media would be great. Now, at some point, this will also be up on YouTube, and you can share it that way to other places, not just Facebook. You can share it with friends and family by email. If you just, hey, you should really check this out. I saw this the other night, and I think it's really important. You can go to Alex's website, the campaign website, alexwhiteforrochester.org, and it's all over the Facebook page. You can totally get to the links from there. and you can share things there. You can give your 2 cents. You can ask questions. You can volunteer to help. You can donate. We're not taking big company contributions.
No developer contributions.
Right. So, but anything you contribute actually goes to getting the word out about this campaign. And remember, the primary is June 22nd. We'll worry about the general election after June 22nd. But for right now, that's our target, is making sure that Alex has enough votes for that June 22nd primary. So even if you're watching and you don't live in the city, or you're watching and you're not a Democrat, that's totally fine. You can still help, because this will help our community as a whole.
If you live in the city, we're going to have signs soon, aren't we?
Yeah, any day. In fact, I will be checking into that tomorrow. They've been ordered, and they should be here any day.
Yeah, easy enough to do. You just tell us where you are, and we'll put a sign in your lawn.
Yep, I will slap it up there.
Okay? And the website has lots of other ways you can help out.
Yep.
And as always, in a half hour or so, I'm going to be online answering questions, whatever. You know, you post something on this, I will respond. Something you didn't understand, you want me to clarify, I can try. You know, you feel I didn't talk about some important thing like land value tax. I didn't, and we can talk about that. Evan. Yeah, sorry, Evan.
We didn't get to it.
We didn't get to it. Okay. We can talk about it. I'm more than willing to and you know, this is almost a signature issue from me. We can talk about it a lot. You can post something up there. You can post a question anytime to the Facebook page or the web page. I will answer them.
And actually, you can do that about any of the subjects of the stuff we put up. Videos from weeks ago. You can go back and ask questions there. We both, Alex particularly, but I do. We both watch the page and make sure if you have a comment or question that we try to address it.
Right. And like Dave said, share.
Yeah.
Okay. Likes are great. Makes me feel wonderful. Shares will get votes.
Sharing is caring.
Okay.
Yeah,
it gets votes.
Yeah.
It gets votes. Okay.
That doesn't rhyme.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
But it's true.
Okay, that's fair.
More importantly, true.
So next week we are going to do part 2 of housing. You go back, you can look at our video on housing. That was more on rental housing. We're going to look at home ownership next week, and it should be Thursday at 7:00. So there'll be a Facebook event. We'll put it out in our email list, which you can get on through the website as well. And we'll be back next week talking about housing. Okay? So thanks for tuning in. Please share this, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.